everyone. Thank you so much for joining in for yet another webinar, our Thursday webinar. And today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is ABM, account-based marketing. This topic is very close to my heart, and my team has collected a bunch of questions from different sources, from our past webinars and other sources like Coda and Reddit. And in these webinar series, I'm going to answer some of these questions, frequently asked questions that comes on this topic. All right. So if you are new to B2B marketing and ABM, so you're at the right place. Please do subscribe to this channel. And my name is Ritesh Osta. I am one of the top rated Fiverr Pro consultant when it comes to B2B marketing and account-based marketing and AI engineering when it comes to B2B sales. And I run a company called InsightTap, and where we help large B2B enterprise run their B2B sales like an e-commerce store. Okay, so with that, let's get started. I'm very excited about the questions, and let's go to the first one. Why has account-based marketing or ABM become such a hot topic in B2B over the last few years? All right. Okay, that's a very good question. Why ABM has now gained the traction and the interest that, in last few years, more than ever before. Now, as somebody who has worked with a lot of enterprise companies, and I've been in the industry for the last 20 years, I have worked with companies like SAP and Amcor and Tech Mahindra and whatnot. So ABM as a word is a very old jargon, right? Account-based marketing has been there since forever when it comes to B2B marketing, but was only used in certain circles, like in enterprise circles, and people used to talk about account-based marketing only on certain circles, right? So, but now, thanks to the new technology, the AI and the automation, now this buzzword has come out of those niche circles, of B2B enterprises, and now it has, perpetuated into a very large audience, right? There are more and more businesses coming up in the marketplace, and they are trying to sell the product and services. So more and more people are now curious as to how they can do B2B marketing and account-based marketing and like so on. And AI and automation have made things much easier, right? So whatever which was very difficult, which requires a large team to execute 10 years back, you can execute using AI agents and automations with a single person company, right? So you don't need a lot of money and a lot of resources to run the B2B marketing and account-based marketing the way these large companies used to do 10 to 15 or 20 years back, right? Now, even a small company, even a startup can run B2B marketing and account-based marketing the way enterprises are running, with way less resources, way less money than what was required, say, 10 or 20 years back, right? And B2B buying now is also larger, right? So now there are more and more players entering the market. So the marketplace is becoming bigger and bigger, right? There are more companies operating. And I think that's also one of the primary reasons there are the decision making, that there are now large decision groups. There are more decision makers than ever before. So I believe that is also driving more interest in this particular topic. As I said, technology enables scalable data-driven personalization. 20 years back, when you have to reach out to say 100 companies, and all the CXO level executives and IT managers and the sales managers and the operations managers, so you need a large team to manage that data, to create the campaign, to do the personalization, to do the research, right? So you typically needed a large B2B sales team and business development team and B2B sales enablement team who used to work on the background and who used to work very hard in terms of doing the market research and the account research and the persona research and the ICP research. They used to do all of that using different sources. And data was also very expensive. So whatever market research data or or leads data from different sources. Either you're going to buy it from lead generation company or a market research companies like Gartner and G2, or a lead generation company. The data itself used to be rather expensive. I still remember that we used to pay thousands of dollars per month to Zoom Infos and others, to get a few thousand leads on certain sector. And we used to pay thousands of dollars to lead generation agencies to get even 5,000 or 10,000 leads on certain particular industry. I'm talking about 10 to 15 years back. But now, thanks to the technology and the democratization of the technology, we have now the Cognizants and the Apollos and so many different companies who are practically providing these data and tech at a fraction of cost what the companies used to pay a few years back, right? So now the technology is enabling the data, leads, and also personalization. Now, building the AI agents and AI automations, and AI can take complex decision making. AI can do a market research. AI can do a persona research. AI can go and scan the internet in no time and find out all the relevant information about the accounts and the persona, collect it, corroborate it, run its own data science, pull out the information, take intelligent decisions, and even go out and reach out to those people in no time, in a matter of seconds and minutes, as compared to 10 years back when you used to maintain a large team to achieve the same exact productivity. So technology is now enabling, thanks to AI agents and automations, and I would rather say low cost tech and low cost API, right? In many ways, which is driving the scalability and the personalization on scale for many of these B2B startups and small companies as well. So, I think I've talked enough on this. The quality of the data that we are getting now is at par with the quality of the data that very large enterprise companies used to get after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the same quality of data, you can get it, in a few $100 or possibly in a few $1,000s. So that's the difference. I think that is what is driving the interest in account-based marketing a lot, right? Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, what is the most common misconception people have about ABM? All right. Okay. Before I answer this question, what is the most common misconception about people have with ABM? The most common question that comes to me about ABM is like, what is ABM? That is the most common question I get, and that too, even from seasoned salespeople, I've heard. I've heard this question. Seasoned businessmen, entrepreneurs, they ask me this question. Hey, Ritesh, you know what? I've heard this term all across, but what really is ABM? So let me explain what ABM is, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the misconception. So account-based marketing is basically marketing for the accounts, right? So if you're selling a pencil, then all the people who are going to use a pencil is your target market, right? Which is practically everybody in your city or on your country or in this planet. Almost all of it, not all of it. But the market is huge, right? Okay. If you're selling pizza, then all the pizza eaters around that particular area is your target market. So the market, I'm talking from the consumer point of view. That is what most people understand. But if the account itself, if a company itself becomes a market, then we call it account-based marketing. For example, you are selling a Microsoft product, right? Or you have developed a product or a service for Microsoft, right? Which is like an add-on which will work on top of Microsoft products, and then it can go on along with the products that Microsoft already has. Now, what you need to do is you need to go ahead and sell it to Microsoft. Now, Microsoft has hundreds of thousands of people working for the company, right? You need to find the right decision makers, and there can be multiple layer of decision makers. So there's an account which is Microsoft. It's a huge account, okay, and it has got a decision maker, and that's your potential target customer. So then the account itself become a market. So since Microsoft is so used, that means if you strike one deal with Microsoft, the deal will run into millions and maybe tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So the account itself is so big that it becomes a market, right? So and then you have to do marketing to that particular account, right? So that is where the ABM terms comes, account-based marketing. That means the market is the account. And when you do a marketing to an account, it becomes account-based marketing. So that's the definition of ABM, account to me. Of course, there are different definitions floating around. What is the most common misconception? The most common misconception is, people think account-based marketing means just make a list of 10 companies or 100 companies and find the CEOs of that company and start shooting email. I think that's a misconception. That is not, that's just a very surface level ABM, right? Typically, for large accounts, the CEOs are very busy people and they're not the real decision makers, right? Maybe they are the ones who actually sign the check at the end, but they are not really, in many ways, the decision makers are very different people. For example, if you're trying to sell an IT product, then possibly the decision makers will be the project managers and the IT managers, right? And the network managers and the database administrators and like so on. So you've got to understand who the decision makers are, who the real users are, who the influencers are, and who's going to, who the obstacle creators are, and who's the one who's going to actually pay the sign the check, right? So typically these are very different people, and when you have a product or service, and if you know that, okay, fine, these are the 100 companies that is potentially my customer, are just making a list of all the CEOs and the top level CXO level people, and then just bombarding them with an email is not going to help, because those people may not be using your product, they may not be even the decision makers, they may not be even aware of the need or the problem that their company might be having, right? So the need, and you've got to really find out that who are the decision makers and who are the end users. Maybe you can start with bottom up, find the end users, give them the product and service for them to use, and then they can, in turn, convince their decision makers and influencers to go ahead and take your product. Or you have to, to go to the decision makers and convince them to take this better decisions. Or you got to do both. But generally, just making a list of top level CXO and sending a LinkedIn message and email is not a very good idea for most cases. Okay, that this is only for big enterprises with large budgets. Yeah, that's another misconception. Conception. In 2025, ABM can be used by startups. It is being used by startups. It is being used by small businesses. So it is not just a gameplay of large enterprise businesses, right? So account-based marketing is something that there are so many tools in tech available, and thanks to the AI and the AI agents and the automations, even a small startup or a small business can run a very successful account-based marketing, and in many ways disrupt the market, right? If you have the right kind of strategy, if you know what you are selling, and if you know who you want to sell, then the data, the research, the technology, the systems are now cheap enough, cost effective enough, and readily accessible enough for even a one-person company or a 10-person companies to run a highly successful account-based marketing. So it is not just for big enterprises anymore. The technology alone can make ABM successful. Yeah, the technology itself is not alone, right? Just because you have taken a Salesforce and a HubSpot subscription, and you have bought a list, you downloaded a list from ZoomInfo, is not going to be enough for you to succeed in ABM, right? It's not just about, hey, gather the ICPs, gather the list, make a list, upload into HubSpot or an outbound tool, and then just start shooting emails or LinkedIn messages. It's not going to be enough. Technology is not enough. And I have seen a lot of companies making a mistake of thinking that if they have the right technology in place, they're going to succeed. Now, Even with all the technology, all the cutting edge technology and the systems in place, the campaigns may still fail because maybe your message is not resonating, right? Maybe you're not reaching out to the right audience. Maybe you are not reaching out with the right audience with the right message, right? Maybe your offer is not good enough. So at the core of it, this is the sales, right? So businesses need to understand that technology is not going to offset the basic principles of sales, right? The basic principles of sales is that there's a problem and you have a solution, or there is a need and you have a product, or you have a product which is going to disrupt the way that the things are being done. If it does not fall into one of these categories, if the messaging is not right, if if you're not reaching into the right audience, if the strategy is not if the strategy is not carved out in the right way, then no amount of technology and data is going to help you, right? So please do work on the strategy first. Please hire a strategist, or you should have a strategist in place. A lot of businesses I see, they just say, hey, you want to start ABM and outreach, right? And then they will start looking for a freelancer or an agency who can do outreach. Now the agency and or the freelancer will set up the systems and can do the outreach, but they are not going to form a strategy for you. Right? The strategy is something that you need to form, and maybe you can hire consultants and others as well. But at the end of the day, that responsibility, that onus falls under you, right? So, and many businesses, they just blame the agency for not bringing the result. They hire some agencies or freelancers, and then they run the campaigns for 3 months and 6 months, and then they will simply say, hey, you know what, outreach does not work, or ABM does not work. No, outreach works, ABM works. It works for others, right? It's not just working for you. So before the technology, the strategy is something that needs to be worked on. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. What's your take on the transition from lead-based to account-based marketing in B2B tech? Okay, lead-based to account-based. Okay. So lead-based is when your entire focus is on leads, right? For example, if you're running a Google ads and somebody clicks on the ads and they fill up the form in the contact us form and they fill up the lead, and the moment it hits your CRM, your Salesforce, you start calling those people or you start sending those emails to those people to schedule a call and to take the next step. That is typical lead-based approach. Okay. Account-based approach is little different. Account-based approach is you identify the account and then you create a campaign very, very specific to those accounts. For example, you identify 100 accounts, say Fortune 500 companies or Fortune 5,000 companies. Out of those Fortune 5,000 companies, you identify, okay, fine, I want to target only the healthcare or heavy engineering companies. Healthcare companies, okay, fine. So there are around 500 healthcare companies and they may need my services because you have a product which is into healthcare. And then out of 500, you do your research and identify 100 accounts which is the right fit for you, right? So once you have those 100 accounts, you start from the end. So you create a strategy to reach out to the people on the 100 accounts. Now, these accounts may be very big. Each account may have 100,000 people working for them. So if you're going to reach, if you want to do a basic math, the 100,000 to 100 is, like 10 million, or yeah, it's around 10 million. So, I mean, reaching out to 10 million people is fine, but then it requires a lot of resources and energy, right? So you've got to start from the end. So within those accounts, who are the decision makers, who are the influencers, who are the end users, you've got to find out, right? And then, make a list of those people and then run the campaigns, whether it is LinkedIn outreach campaign or email outreach campaign or Google ads. Now we have the technology in place where you can upload the customer match data. That means you can make a list of the companies and you can even give the titles and job descriptions and titles. And upload it to, say, a LinkedIn account, and LinkedIn will only show your ads to those exact people, or people matching those titles. So now those technology are in place, so you can run a very, very specific campaign to drive the awareness and to drive the leads, right? So lead based is just thinking, hey, if there's a lead coming up, I'm going to follow up. Account based thinking is you start from the end, you make a list of the accounts, or at least you make a list of the industry or the demography or the firmography. You make a list of it and then start from there, right? So that's the mindset shift that is important when you go from lead based marketing to account based marketing, right? The reason why you should go for account based marketing is if you are selling very high ticket items, okay, enterprise level stuff, then possibly there is a longer buying cycle, multiple stakeholder. So it's very important to reach out to the right people at the right time, and at the same time you have to reach out to all the people. If you just reach out to decision makers, and if you're ignoring the end users, and if you're ignoring the influencers and the bill payers, then possibly the deal may not go through, right? So the focus should be from the quantity to quality, right? The focus from your mindset point of view, the focus needs to move from the number of leads in the pipeline to the quality of engagement. So the quality of the engagement matters more. For example, does this lead that is there in my pipelines here, does it matches the account ICP, right? And what is the quality of the engagement going on, right? How many people I'm interacting with in the account? What are the other decision makers and influencers and end users that I'm having a relationship with? So it moves from, it's not like you've got 100 leads and it's not like an e-commerce company, right? Where more the leads, the better it is for you. The more deals you are going to close, because this is not something which is like a $10 item that you typically sell. These are high ticket items, and the quantity of the lead, more than the quantity of the lead, the quality of the lead really matters. And the quality of the lead depends on the quality of the engagement you are having with those leads in those accounts. Okay, all right. And the third thing is that you've got to really align your sales and marketing around the same goal, right? So if you have a goal that you want to target this particular industry, within the industry, you want to target this particular ICP type and the segment, which is like $50 million to $200 million healthcare industry in US, Canada, Europe. Okay, if you're clear about your goals, okay, then your sales and marketing team needs to work together to work to achieve that particular, right? So the marketing team's goal should be to align in terms of outreach and engagement, and the sales team goal needs to be aligned in terms of moving the deal forward in the pipeline, right? So this needs to happen in sync, and if this is not working together, it becomes very, very difficult. All right, let's move on to the next one. How do you know if account-based marketing is right for your company? Okay, all right. How do you know if it is the right thing to do for your company? Okay. So, I mean, these are general rules you can just follow. If you have a high-value product, high-ticket product, if your product is complex in terms of sales, if your product has a longer decision-making cycles, if your product or service requires multiple different layers of decision makers and influencers to finally to finally engage with you. If your product can only be sold to certain very specific type of businesses, who are relatively big, even if it is not big, but they have very specific need, then possibly ABM is a good fit. Right? For example, if you are selling a product or a service for airline industry, so there are only a number of companies, airline companies in the world. Make sense? ABM works very well for that. But if you're selling something very low cost, then possibly account-based marketing does not make sense. So if you're selling $100 product, then possibly it's not a good fit, right? Then you should move into the lead-based mindset. Because there's no point, making a list of accounts and then, doing all the hard work to, at the end of the day, sell $100 product. But if your product is say $100,000 and it is for an airline industry or a heavy engineering industry, then account-based marketing makes sense, right? If you're targeting say a warehouse industry, then account-based marketing makes sense because there are only limited number of warehouse in a particular country, and you are selling product and service for warehouses. So you've got to find those companies and create the right kind of relationship to sell your product and service. At the same time, you've got to ensure that your product and service is high ticket enough to, to bear the cost of the effort that you're putting in, right? So if the product or the service value is very small, I would refrain you from going ABM. Then ABM may not be a good fit. But if you are targeting a very specific type of market with a bigger need, and if your product and service requires a longer sales cycle, a complex sales cycles, and your target audience is limited out there, then possibly ABM is a good fit. Okay. You need a very clear ICP and enough resources for personalization. So clear ICP is very important. For example, an airline industry, right? So very clear ICP, warehouse companies, very clear ICPs, right? Heavy engineering companies or engineering design companies, right? Very clear ICPs. That is super important for account-based marketing. If that clarity is not there, then possibly you should not go with ABM, because you will do all the hard work of making the list of the companies and targeting a particular industry, only to find out that your product and service is a mismatch. So before you start the hard work of running those campaigns, make sure that you are absolutely clear that this is my product and service and this is the right audience. So that needs to be done before you move into ABM-based technique. Okay. And you've got to really, in terms of sales and marketing, this is more intertwined. There's a lot more work that goes between sales and marketing team in ABM as compared to sales just running a Google Ads campaign and just passing those leads to Salesforce for the sales team to just pick up and start calling. So it is much more than that. All right. Okay. What mistakes do companies often make when launching their first ABM program? Okay. Typical mistakes that companies do. The first mistake is targeting too many accounts without a clear ICP. Okay. If you are targeting, say, warehouse companies in US, good. I would say start with a particular region or a state. Keep it very, very targeted. Too many accounts. Don't start with warehouse companies in US, Canada, or a tracking logistic companies in US, Canada, and Mexico. Logistic industry in US is very different than logistic industry in Canada, and it is super different than logistic industry in Mexico or Europe. So keep it very, very targeted. Don't spray and don't create campaigns for large audiences. So you've got to have a very clear ICP, very clear need to understand the ground realities. Every country has its own environment and governance and compliance, so everything differs. Even region to region, city to city, things change a lot. So be as specific as possible, be as niche as possible. Start from small niche. Start from an area which you are really good at. I mean, if you have a bunch of existing customers, see who those customers are. Find the ICPs which are closest to those existing customers. Okay, so start from there. So if you have 10 customers, just see, do the demography and the firmography and the psychography. Analyze those, see who are your real customers, find similar companies, and then target those rather than go top down. So don't try to create a funnel. If you're an e-commerce company, there are a lot of thought leaders who talks about, hey, create a funnel that needs to be a large top, narrow bottom. In ABM, it does not work like that, right? You start from the end, so you have to flip the funnel in many ways. So don't go with a traditional funnel technique where you just reach out to as many companies as possible, and then you want to, drill down on that. It generally does not work in ABM. Create more niche segments, create a targeted messaging, a very clear ask, and then reach out to your ICPs. Again, poor sales and marketing and alignment is the number one killer of ABM, and jumping on tools before solidifying the strategy. I have talked about this before as well. Don't become too busy with. I remember having discussions with some of the founders, and in the first call itself, hey, Ritesh, should I use Salesforce? Should I use HubSpot? Should I use ZoomInfo? Should I use Apollo? And should I use this? And should I mean, that's not what the strategy or the founder of the company should be worried about. If you are a founder of a company, if you are the business development strategist of a company, and you're worried about ZoomInfo and Apollo and and HubSpot and CleverTap and stuff like those, then possibly you are in the wrong direction. And I have seen that too many times. Businesses doing that, they are just too busy with the tools than the strategy. I mean, you've got to understand tools. The tech is just a tool to reach your destination, right? So a car is just a tool for you to go from A to B. So if you want to go from one place to another place, a car or a vehicle or an aeroplane, whatever, it's just a tool. It will just take you. An aeroplane can take you faster. A train will take you slow, right? So these are the two tools. Make sense? So that not all tools are equal, but they will do the job, right? They will take you from A to B. But if you don't know where you want to go, if the strategy is not clear, if you're not clear about your goal, then no amount of tool and no sophistication of the tool is going to help you. And I really, I tell my prospect and the customers that don't worry about the technology. That comes later on. The tech stack comes later on. Before that, the strategy stack should be in place. Okay. All right. So the next one, how to define ideal customer profile when dealing with niche markets or emerging industry. How to define? I already gave you one example. The first place that I typically start is your existing contact database. If you have a existing database of customers and prospects and deals, start from there. Find out who has bought from you, who has not bought from you, and why they have bought from you or why they have not bought from you, and start from there. That's the first place that a company should start, and unfortunately, that is the last place that company looks for information. Unfortunately, they look for everywhere except their own database. So start from your own database, your own CRM data. Okay, your own if you have a Salesforce or HubSpot, start from there. If you're maintaining it in a spreadsheet, even that is fine. Add more information, enrich the information, and then analyze that. That's step number one. Step number two is refine your messaging. So do your research, right? If needed, you can hire a market research company. We also do competitive research, market research. If needed, you do that. But the idea is to understand the firmography and the technography and the pain points. Put all of them together, right? So you've got to really understand the demography and match it with the pain points, right? So for example, okay, fine, this customer segment has this pain point, and this is the reason why they have bought our product and service. This particular segment of customer has this pain point, and that is the reason why they have bought our product and service. So that segmentation needs to be done as much as possible. And typically companies have sales team, the business development team. Companies have marketing team, which does marketing, the campaigns. But companies typically don't have strategists. They don't have sales strategists. They don't have growth strategists, right? And the onus typically falls on the CXO level leadership, right? And if they are not doing it, they have to outsource it to somebody who can do that, right? So sales team is busy dealing with sales. They are like, I have 50 leads to cater to, so they are just busy working on sales. Marketing team generally is busy with the tech and the campaigns. They are running Google ads, LinkedIn ads, and I have seen in very few cases there are dedicated team or people who are working on the strategy. I have seen, generally it is the company founders who do that, or the CXO level people who do that, right? Or you need to hire, people who can create that for you. There are strategists available. So I would suggest really start from the strategy, analyze the current best customer, engage with the industry experts for validation, talk to people, and then proceed with that. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next one. When getting started with ABM, what benchmarks and goals should we set for short-term, mid-term, and long-term success? Okay. The benchmarks for ABM. One, when it comes to ABM, or when it comes to any marketing for that matter, there are certain mistakes that a lot of business owners make. And I'll give you some practical example. Before I talk about the ABM, this is not the ABM specific input. This is general marketing, right? For example, I have seen business owners, they tell their marketing team that they need to run YouTube ads, right? So video ads, like a 30 seconds video talking about their brand or their service, whatever, right? So they say, hey, you know what, just run YouTube ads or performance ads on on Google. And what is the goal? The goal is to get the lead. I've seen that. It's very common, my question is, the goal can be lead. It's okay. I'm not against that. The goal absolutely can be lead. Okay. For example, you run an ad to ask people to join a webinar, right? That can be an ad on YouTube, and the call to action can be, hey, join the webinar. That people can go and join the webinar. So you've got a lead, not like a real uh, marketing qualified lead, but you've got a webinar, right? Good. So if they actually come on the webinar, then possibly you can educate them and you can nurture them and you can qualify them and you can make them into a sales qualified lead. So that can happen. So I'm not against that when it comes to running campaigns for leads. But many of the businessmen, they just start with a short-term mindset that they want leads. And when they create a KPI, they give the KPI to their business development team, sales team, and marketing team. Hey, run this particular campaign, run this outreach campaign, run this LinkedIn outreach campaign. And by the end of the week and by the end of the month, we are going to calculate the number of leads that it has brought in. Now, that puts a lot of pressure on the sales team, and the business development team, and the marketing team to run the campaign to bring the leads. So even before they start, they have actually, they set themselves on the wrong direction because the pressure is on to bring the lead. So every outreach campaign, every campaign will be like, hey, book a calendar and, book calendar and fill up the contact us form. Why would people want to do that? You have just started, but there's no relationship. They don't know you, and you are just reaching out to them saying that, hey, book a calendar or reply to this message or just be my guest. So this does not work. So naturally those campaigns fail. Okay. And the initial goal which was set to bring lead does not happen. And this discourages the marketing team and the sales team. So there should be, of course, a short-term goal, mid-term goal, and the long-term. Right? The short-term goal should be around engagement and consumption. Right? The short-term goal should be relationship building when it comes to ABM. So if you are not long-term thinker, then ABM possibly is not the right strategy for you. Right? If you are creating a strategy by which by the end of the week or the end of the month, you're going to count the number of leads that the campaigns has brought in, then possibly ABM is not the right thing for you, right? It's just like running Google ads to bring leads. Running YouTube ads to bring leads. If you want to bring leads, possibly run Google ads. Don't run YouTube ads unless you are running very, very specific things like workshops and webinars and stuff like those. don't run YouTube ads. YouTube ad is very good when it comes to branding, right? And awareness. It can reach out to a lot of people. It can create engagement. Leads, possibly not, right? But the goal of the YouTube ad should not be leads, in my opinion, for most of the cases. Right? It should be brand awareness and engagement. The same goes with social media, right? If you're only going to use social media to generate leads, it's going to be very difficult. Instead, give something valuable. For example, if you're running LinkedIn ad, instead of just showcasing your product and service and asking people to book, schedule a call, give them a market research paper to download, give them a webinar to attend, give them a soft CTA, something that they will be more comfortable taking an action. And then, if they take an action, then take it from there and create a mid-term and the long-term strategy, right? So when it comes to ABM, think long-term, work short-term, but think long-term and plan for long-term and mid-term, right? So short-term should be account engagement and content consumption. First give before ask. So try to give as much as possible, valuable stuff. Mid-term should be, this is where you need to focus on the leads and the meeting book and the opportunity. And the long term is where you will think about deals and the velocity of the deal and the revenue impact, right? Short term, when I say short term, I talk about 3 to 6 months window. When I say midterm, I'm talking about 6 months to 2 years window. And when I talk long term, I'm talking about 2 years to 5 years time. All right. So that's what I mean. Okay. Just to be clear, because sometimes the short term for many business owners will be 1 week, and midterm will be 3 weeks, and long term will be 3 months. So that's not what it is. When it comes to ABM and B2B marketing, patience is a virtue. All right. Okay, let's move on. How to personalize outreach for multiple stakeholders within the same account without overcomplicating the process. Okay, so we are talking about personalization for multiple stakeholders within the same account without over. Okay, all right. Some use cases. If you are, say, for example, dealing with a heavy engineering company, if you are an engineering design company, your target audience are construction firms and real estate firms and like so on, and you want to present your product as services, engineering design services, and you want to present, for example, then obviously you got to target multiple different layers of people, end users and decision makers and influencers and the CFOs, the people who want to cut the checks for you. So there needs to be a different targeted strategy. Maybe you also need to go to trade shows and interact with those people in person, right? At the same time, run LinkedIn outreach campaign, email outreach campaign, run ads to their particular target audience. So there needs to be a very coordinated campaign to those specific accounts, and within those accounts to very, very specific people, right? So you got to really segment the stakeholders based on the role and the decision. Segment it, because what message you're going to give it to a CXO may not apply when you're dealing with the end user. So when you're dealing with end users, you talk like an end user, right? What they need and their need and their problems lies. But when you're talking to say, a CFO, you cannot just talk about the product and the solution. You have to talk about how it's going to impact the company revenue. Maybe it is going to reduce the cost or increase the revenue, because that's the language they understand. And when you talk to a CXO or CEO or COO, then you got to talk about how it's going to affect the future of the company, right? So they may not be particularly very interested on the nitty-gritties and the technicalities of the solutions, but they might be really interested in how this is going to take their company forward and create the right kind of strategy. So you've got to segment the stakeholders and then do the personalization based on those segments, and the layer on which the decision makers and the influencers are sitting. Okay, it's not about just creating one message and then just giving it to CXO and the CFO and the end user and the IT manager and the database administrator. It does not work like that, right? So you've got to really work on each of the stakeholders and create very, very personalized, need-based messaging and then create the right kind of relations, right? So create modular messaging templates for each persona. Share insights and content across the account team to stay consistent. In the meanwhile, just stay connected with them over different channels and share content, share insights, and just be on top of their mind, right? And many times that is very important. You are there in their inbox, you are there in their social media channels, and also you are there if they are looking for something, right? Your ad is showing up, your brand is showing up. So it's very important to be on the top of the mind, for these particular uh, accounts. All right. Okay, let's move on then. What's the approach to re-engaging target audience that go cold during ABM campaign? All right, re-engagement. If you are working on certain industry, okay, very specific industry, and obviously you are engaging, and then possibly the target audience, has went cold, right? And it happens all the time when it comes to B2B marketing and B2B sales and account-based marketing. It is a pretty the deal all the way went to the lead all the way went to the deal stage, and then suddenly everything just fizzled out. Right? It's a very common scenario in large enterprise sales. If you are a sales guy working in large enterprise, if you're a marketing person, I'm pretty sure you understand what I'm saying here. So the idea is when they go cold, don't stop the relationship, right? As I said, give and then ask. So the give part needs to remain there, right? So keep sharing the new high value insights, case studies, and research. Keep asking them to join the webinar, give them the case studies, the market research paper, the white papers, your own thoughts. It's super important to be in touch with them, right? And there are technology now in place where you can do that pretty easily, in many ways through technology, right? But that system needs to be built even to the cold audience. Maybe they have gone cold today, but maybe 2 years down the line they will again become warm and come back to you, right? If you have the relationship, right? Engage via different channels. If they have gone cold on email, then possibly engage them on LinkedIn, engage them on other channels as well, engage with other people in that. There can be maybe the person you are engaging has left the organization. You never know. Maybe the person who you were interacting has been promoted or demoted, moved to a different team. So there can be multiple different reasons. So you've got to change the channel and also reach out to more people if needed. Just because the deal has gone cold doesn't mean that you're not going to crack the deal. So as a salesperson, never say no as an answer. Even though the clients will keep telling you no, the no does not mean no forever. The no means no for that time, right? Nothing is forever, right? So if you are persistent enough, if you have the right kind of mentality, if you have the right kind of systems in place to be in touch with them, they will come back to you, if they have a need, okay? And just keep a personal check-ins, right? Try to create a personal relationship at the end of the day, right? ABM is more about how much is personal relationship more than technology in many ways. Technology will just help you do things faster and better, but the human connect, the basics of the human connect remains, in ABM. Okay, all right. Is account-based marketing sustainable in a privacy-first world, or will it fade out in next 5 years? Okay, privacy-first world. All right. Privacy-first means a lot of companies, you have the GDPRs and so many different compliances that has now come in. Every region, every country is coming up with their own data compliances. Privacy is really a thing now. Okay, Apple has already adopted privacy first approach. That means your cookies are not being used to store the data. That means the companies, these large enterprises, they're not, these large aggregators like Google and others are not getting the kind of the information that they used to get from you, and you have now as an end user have the power to share the data with these aggregators or not, right? So privacy first approach is going on. I think it's going to remain like this. Okay. So the important thing is to pull in the data as much as possible as first party sources. Right? Don't just rely on the cookies. Don't just rely on the third parties. Don't just rely on the Apples and the Googles. Okay, you try to bring in that information to your own systems as much as possible. So if you are having information, interaction with the customer, enrich that data in your own system, your own CRMs and the CDPs and the data warehouse. Put those, put extra information, right? Enrich the data, add more information, add more context from your own end, so that in future you can use it. Even if the you're not getting information from those users externally, internally you have enough context to keep the relationship going, right? Less reliance on cookies, more on contextual targeting, stronger emphasis on value-led outreach. So the emphasis should be value-led. It's not just about targeting and just hitting them with campaign after campaign. It's about adding value so that they are more convinced to give their own information willingly to you because you are providing a lot of value in return. All right, I think that's pretty much it. It was a long list of questions. I enjoyed answering the question. I hope you enjoyed the answers as well. In no way I claim that all the answers I give is complete or enough. I think this is just a beginning. I'll talk more on these subjects. And I'm pretty sure in this subject matter, there are a lot of experts who are there in the industry for decades. They know a lot more than me. If you are one of them, if you feel something that can be added, please write down in the comment section if something that you want to add. Please also write down in the comment section the questions that you really liked. Okay, the answers that you might have really liked. Or if you disagree with any of the questions, the answers that I gave, please write down that as well. I'll be very happy to, go through that comment section and learn as much as possible. If you feel there are some certain questions that you may have yourself, please ask that question in the comment section. My team is constantly working on this. They will pull out these questions and we'll make a list of these questions and we'll try to answer it in the next run. All right. So thank you so much from me, Ritesh Osta, and from Team Insight Tab. I'll see you in the next one. Have a nice day.